Hello and welcome to The Analyst, dated 31st July 2023 by Vajiram and Ravi, wherein we'll be covering the important current affairs articles from both The Hindu as well as Indian Express. And the handout of this very discussion would be provided to you in the description below. Let's have a look over the articles that we are going to cover today. So firstly, we'll be referring this article which relates to women's safety. Then we'll try to understand the drug trafficking issue in India. Then we'll be looking into digital payments in India. Then we'll be understanding that what is this World Coin project all about, and then we'll try to understand these two key terms, that is decoupling versus de-risk. Now this first article is related to the issue of women's safety in India, and this topic relates to this very aspect of your GS paper 1 syllabus. Let's try and understand the context first. So the context is, recently in the parliament, the Union Home Ministry tabled some data, and that data, which was compiled by National Crime Records Bureau, pointed out that more than 13.13 lakh girls and women are missing during this time of 2019 and 2021. And when it comes to the data, MP and West Bengal accounts for the majority of the missing girls and women in India. Now in this regard, the first thing that you need to understand is, what is this violence against women? It basically refers to the acts of gender-based violence which results or which are likely to result into sexual, physical, emotional, psychological, social or economic harm to the women in the society. It is basically a manifestation of the unequal power relation between the man and the woman in both the family as well as in society in general. Now the next aspect that I want you to discuss with you people is, what are the different forms of violence which a woman experiences throughout its life cycle? Okay, so before a woman is born, a girl basically witnesses this violence in form of female feticide. In the infancy stage, on account of patriarchal negligence and neglect, time and again we witness that the female infant child dies because they are not provided with nutritional food. Then during the girlhood stage, they are forced to do child marriages. Then they also witness violence in form of child pornography, etc. When it comes to the adulthood stage, that is the stage wherein a woman faces majority of the violence in form of acid attacks, in form of marital rape, in form of dowry related deaths, in form of objectification or commodification of women, in form of honor killing, etc., trafficking and prostitution, etc. When it comes to the elderly stage, usually the widow woman witness violence because the majority of the Indian families disown the elderly woman. Now the next aspect that you need to understand is, what all steps the government of India has taken in order to ensure women's safety. First is, we have done an amendment in the Criminal Law Act in 2018. So it provided certain stringent provisions in order to ensure women's safety in India. Like, it provided death penalty with regard to the cases wherein rape of a girl has been done which is less than 12 years. Then it also states that the investigation and filing of charge sheet should be done within the time frame of 2 months. And in the next 2 months, the trial should be completed. Then we also have an emergency response support system, that is 112. So if you call on this number or if you send an email on this number, what would happen? An emergency alert would be sent to the state emergency control rooms and to your emergency contact number as well. So in this emergency alert, the state emergency control rooms basically get certain information like your name, your age, your emergency contact numbers as well as your locational information. So based on that emergency alert, the mobilization of the resources would be done and people would be sent to that particular location. Okay, we are making use of technology in order to ensure women's safety. In this, we are implementing smart policing, wherein we are strengthening the forensic capability of our police forces. Then we are also implementing the Safe City project. In this, we'll be identifying the crime hotspots through CCTV surveillance. Then we'll be ensuring the patrolling by women police personals. Then we'll be establishing a women help desk in every police station. So all these steps would be taken under this Safe City project. Then the Ministry of Home Affairs has created this cybercrime reporting portal in 2018, wherein any citizen can report if he or she witnessed any obscene picture or scene on the online platform. Then in 2018 again, the government has created this national database on sexual offenders in 2018, which basically is a database of such offenders who are engaged in sexual offences like eve-teasing, like rape, like stalking, etc. And this database would basically enable the law enforcement agencies to carry out the investigation and tracking such sexual offenders. Now, the next aspect that we need to understand is why, despite this stringent laws, we are not able to yet ensure women's safety. First and foremost reason is these stringent laws are not acting as a deterrent. Why it is so? Because now as the offender knows that if the victim stays alive, then he would be given death penalty. So in that scenario, the offenders are basically making sure that the victim is dead after raping a particular woman or a girl. Then another reason is decline in reporting of the cases. Why? Because now, as we discussed, that if a person rapes a girl child who is less than 12 years of age, then he or she would be given death penalty. Now, just imagine a scenario. If the person who has raped this minor girl belongs to the family only, then the family would be reluctant to report that particular case. And according to National Crime Record Bureau, in 94% of the cases, it has been found out that the offender or the person who has done certain sexual offense is known to that particular victim. So this is another reason that the reporting of the crime is going down. And lastly, on account of delayed justice also, the people or the victim is not very incentivized to seek justice. For example, in the Nirbhaya case itself, the victim got justice after 9 years. So this is the amount of time that you have to invest in order to get justice on account of adjournment culture which is prevalent in our Indian courts. Now, the next aspect that we need to understand is what more needs to be done in this regard in order to enhance women's safety in India. First and foremost, we need to make effective use of the surveillance system, that is CCTV surveillance system and mobile surveillance system. CCTV surveillance like in areas like bus stations, railway station, taxi stands, etc. And mobile surveillance should be done with regard to sexual offenders. So we need to make use of better technology that we have right now in order to strengthen women's safety. Then we need to link the records of all the orphanages, child shelter homes and Nari Niketans. Why it is so? Because see, if the local police rescues a particular girl child, from abductors or from the kidnapper, so they usually send that particular minor girl to local shelter homes. Now in that scenario, if a girl child is very small, that girl child would not be able to tell the exact details about her parents or about her home, regarding the address details. So now in this regard, it becomes difficult for the parents to get united with their minor girl child. So in this regard, we need to interlink the records so that the minor girls who are rescued could be connected with their parents. Then we could also make use of promotion incentives. We have a case study in this regard. In 2021, the Delhi police started this promotion incentive, especially for the constables and head constable. The Delhi police stated that if you rescue more than 50, girl child who are less than 14 years of age, then we'll be providing you promotion incentive. And on account of this promotion incentive, you will be astonished to note down this, that in this year, more number of girls were rescued as compared to the number of missing reports that were filed in that particular year. So other states should also start this promotion incentive. Then we need to eliminate the dark spots. We need to put in place the street lights in order to enhance women's safety, especially during the nights. When it comes to Delhi, recently the LG of Delhi has pointed out that when it comes to Delhi, we need to eliminate the 1,400 dark spots which are there in Delhi. And in order to promote women's safety at night time, we can also start the night, taxi services, van services, etc. And in this regard, the Delhi LG has also pointed out that we need to increase the number of women personnel when it comes to the Delhi police. Then we need to set up dedicated fast track courts. In this regard, again the Delhi LG has pointed out that we need to, put in place requisite numbers of fast track courts which are going to deal with cases which are related to women's safety. And we also need to look into this fact that whether requisite number of judges are there in such fast track courts or not. So we need to ensure timely appointment of the judges when it comes to the fast track courts. Then lastly, sensitization, because ultimately why we time and again witness this gender-based violence? The reason is gender-based socialization. From the very childhood, we all are socialized in a manner that women are trained for expressive role and men are basically for instrumental role. What is expressive role? That is the role that a woman does, as she is a mother. She takes care of the children, the elderly people in the house. Whereas the men perform instrumental role, that is they earn. They join the employment. Okay. So this thing needs to be changed, and this could be changed only through sensitization. We need to bring change in the mindset of our society. We need to change this mindset that woman is a property of men. And for that, we need to come up with gender sensitization programs, and we also need to bring certain change in our education curriculum as well. This was also something which was pointed out recently by Delhi LG. So this is all that we need to know with regard to this article. Let's move to the next one. Now this next article is related to the issue of drug trafficking in India, and this aspect relates to this very topic of your GS paper. It would be GS paper 3. Now let's try and understand the context first. So the context is, in the recent Mann Ki Baat, the Honorable Prime Minister stated that India has destroyed around 10 lakh kgs of drugs worth 12,000 crore in the past year. Now in this regard, the first thing that you need to understand is what are causes of drug abuse in India. First reason is poverty. Now on account of high poverty, on account of high unemployment, what happens is, especially the youth also, and especially the rural youth, they are more attracted towards ganja or cannabis in order to evade the reality, in order to evade the stress that they have to witness on account of unemployment and poverty. Then one of the major reasons of drug abuse in India is geographical location, because India is placed quite close to the two major regions of opium production in the world, that is Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle. And we also have porous border. That is also the reason that drug is trafficked in India. According to the Narcotics Control Bureau, around 70% of the drug which is trafficked in India comes through these sea routes, through Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. Another factor that we need to make note of in this geographical location is these two regions, that is Shan and Kachin, which are the provinces in Myanmar. These regions are controlled by rebel groups which are indirectly supported by the Chinese. So we also have a Chinese angle in this regard. Then on account of industrialization, what has happened is we are able to produce cheap pharmaceutical drugs. Now those drugs are being used by the poor or unemployed people. For example, diazepam. Then on account of modernization also, we are also witnessing drug abuse. How come? The areas which has witnessed greater economic growth, their affluent blocks have developed. wherein we are finding a suitable market for designer drugs, the drugs which are majorly consumed in the Western nations. So on account of this modernizing influence also, we are witnessing high drug abuse in India. Then another major factor is India itself is one of the largest producer of opium in the world, especially in the northeast region of Arunachal Pradesh. So, despite strict control, certain portion of this opium is supposed to be diverted towards spurious consumption, okay, towards this drug abuse. Then cannabis is also grown in certain parts of India, that is Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, UP, etc. So these are the major causes of drug abuse in India. Now let's have a look over the steps which the government of India has taken in order to minimize drug abuse in India. First is, India has ratified majority of the international conventions which are backed by United Nations. For example, United Nations Conventions on Narcotic Drugs, 1961, United Nations Convention on Psychotropic Substance, 1971, then United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, 2000. So all these major United Conventions have been signed by India. Then we also have Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act 1985, which basically prevents an individual from storing, consumption and sale of drugs. Recently it was amended in 2001, which basically provided for graded punishment. Now a person who is possessing drugs or who is consuming the drugs would be provided punishment based on the amount which that person is possessing. Okay, what amount of drug that person possesses. So based on this, the punishment would be provided. Then we have also taken institutional measures. For example, the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment is basically implementing the National Action Plan for Drug Demand Reduction in India, which is for 2018 to 25. Okay, so under this National Action Plan for Drug Demand Reduction, what this ministry is basically doing, it is creating awareness among the public that what are the harmful impacts of drug, consumption of drug. Then it is also ensuring effective rehabilitation of the victims, and it is also providing support to the civil society organizations so that they can carry out community-based effective rehabilitation of the drug victims. Then we have Narcotics Control Bureau, which is basically the nodal agency under the Ministry of Home Affairs, which looks into all the cases which are related to drug trafficking in India. It is basically the nodal agency to cut down the supply of drugs which are being trafficked in India. Then certain initiatives have also been taken by the Indian Coast Guard. So what this Indian Coast Guard is doing, it is collaborating with the security agencies as well as Coast Guard of Sri Lanka, Maldives and Bangladesh to basically reduce the drugs which are trafficked in India. For example, recently the Indian Coast Guard, with the help of the security agencies of these three nations, it was able to seize 2,160 kgs of meth near Andaman and Nicobar Island. Then the government has also started this Nasha Mukt Bharat campaign in 2020. It is based on three-pronged strategy. What is this three-pronged strategy? First is we are going to reduce the supply. For this, Narcotics Control Bureau is the nodal agency. Then we are going to reduce the demand. How come? Through outreach campaign. For this, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment would be the nodal agency. Then we are providing health treatment to the drug victims in order to ensure effective rehabilitation of drug victims. So recently in this Mann Ki Baat program, the PM also pointed out that when it comes to Nasha Mukt Bharat campaign, we have been able to reach to around 11 crore people till now. Now, although the government of India has taken a lot of measures in order to reduce drug trafficking in India, but still we are witnessing new set of challenges when it comes to drug trafficking in India. What are the new set of challenges? First is use of drones. Recently, a lot of incidents have come up wherein drones are being used to supply drugs as well as arms in the Punjab region. Then now the drug dealers are resorting to dark nets as well as use of cryptocurrency to carry out drug deals. In a study, it was found out that around 62% of the drug deals are being done in this darknet. Why they are carrying out these drug deals in the darknet? Because they get this benefit of anonymity when it comes to darknets. So in darknets, there are a lot of layers, and it becomes difficult for the security agencies or the intelligence agencies to burst these drug deals which are being carried out through this darknet. And when it comes to use of cryptocurrency, again here the security agencies found themselves ineffective. Why? Because these cryptocurrencies are not regulated by the Central Bank of India. So these are the new set of challenges which the intelligence agencies are facing with regard to drug trafficking. Then what we are witnessing is a nexus is developing between the drug cartels and the NRIs which are based in Canada, Australia, Hong Kong or in other European nations. So this is a new challenge which the intelligence agencies are witnessing right now. Then one new thing which these drug cartels are doing is they are using the local gangs which were previously engaged in extortion activity in a particular region. So they are using these local gangs to supply drugs in a particular region because these local gangs already have the requisite logistic support in that particular area. Then another astonishing thing that we have found is there is lack of awareness regarding the treatment facilities. The people who have taken a pledge to reduce the drug consumption or alcohol consumption, what we have found that only 12% of them were aware of the treatment facilities. So this is something that we need to address. Because despite having the rehabilitation facilities for drug victims, if the people who are victims of this drug abuse, if they are not able to get these treatment facilities, then in this regard, government needs to take certain action. Then let's have a look over the steps that we need to take in order to address this issue of drug trafficking in India. First and foremost, we need a coordinated effort. We need a coordinated effort between Narcotics Crime Bureau. Then we need coordinated effort between this and the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And we also need coordinated effort at the international level. Why? Because these drug dealers are not only present in India. As we have discussed under this point, that we are witnessing a nexus between the drug cartels and the NRIs which are based in Canada, Australia, Hong Kong and other European Union nations. So we basically need international coordination in this regard in order to burst these drug dealers which are there and the drug deals which are being carried out through the darknet. Then we need to build the capacity of our intelligence agencies so that they could burst the drug deals which are being carried out through this darknet and which are being carried out by using the cryptocurrency. We need to, make our intelligence agencies capable of the recent, technological development that we are witnessing right now. Then we also need to improve surveillance in the border areas because right now I told you that we are witnessing drug trafficking in India. Why? Because India is placed between Golden Triangle and Golden Crescent. So we need improved surveillance in the border areas in order to minimize the drug trafficking in India because we have porous border, okay, at both the sides. Then we need to move in the direction of inclusive growth. Why? Because one of the reasons that we discussed is unemployment, poverty, and on account of that, the unemployed youth or the rural youth witness a lot of stress. So in order to overcome that stress, they resort to drugs. So we need to move towards inclusive growth. We need to create better employment opportunities so that the youth potential could be realized effectively. Then we need to create awareness regarding the treatment facilities. Okay, because very less drug victims are aware that the government is providing the rehabilitation facilities for them. Okay, under the National Action Plan for drug demand reduction and under the Nasha Mukt Bharat campaign as well. Then there is an interesting case study which was mentioned in the article itself, wherein this Bicharpur village in Shahdol district of Madhya Pradesh, which was previously known for illicit alcohol production, okay, right now it is known as the football nursery of India. Why? Because a national player, Rais Ahmed, has taken certain initiative in this area, and on account of his initiative, what we are witnessing is majority number of national football players and state level players are coming from this very region. So this case study, basically highlights us that certain, if we implement such activities, so what would happen? The youth would be able to, realize their potential in a good way rather than getting diverted towards drug abuse. So such practices should be replicated in other regions as well. Okay. This is all that we need to know with regard to this article. Let's move to the next one. Now this next article relates to the issue of digital payments in India, and this article relates to this very topic of your GS paper 3 syllabus. Let's try and understand the context first. So the context is, although the digital transaction has increased substantially when it comes to India, but still India's performance is quite unimpressive as compared to the other developing countries. Although when it comes to India, what we are witnessing is the UPI transaction is increasing. But when it comes to other modes of digital payments like IMPS, NEFT, debit cards, credit cards, prepaid instrument, the use of such instruments is going down on account of popularity of UPI. But the other facts that we need to know, that why India's performance is said to be unimpressive as compared to the other developing countries, the article has provided certain data facts. According to World Bank Global FinTech Survey, in 2021, India has around 80% of bank accounts. Okay, so 80% of our population have bank accounts. But what we are witnessing is, out of this 80%, 38% of the bank accounts are still unused. Now this number is quite high as compared to what we are witnessing in other developing countries. Then when it comes to the digital payments, only 35% of our population is using digital payments. However, the number is quite high, around 57% in the other developing nations. Then when it comes to the use of digital payments in rural and urban areas, what we are witnessing in rural areas, only 30% of the population is using digital payments, whereas in urban areas, 40% of our population is using digital payments. However, there is no distinction between the use of digital modes of payments or transaction when it comes to urban and rural areas in Bangladesh. Okay, so these are the reasons on account of which it is said that when it comes to India's performance, it is quite unimpressive as compared to other developing countries. And one more thing that we are witnessing is, as when it comes to gender, around 41% of the men are making use of digital payments, while only 28% of the females are making use of digital payments. Now, next aspect that we need to understand in this regard is what all steps the government of India has taken in order to promote digital payments in India. First and foremost, the government has provided tax incentive, especially to the small businessmen who have turnover up to 2 crore. So if the small businessmen carry out their transaction in cash, then they would be taxed at 8% of their turnover. While if they move towards digital medium of transaction, then they would be taxed at 6% rate. Okay. Then the government has also provided a lot of incentives to customers as well as merchants, especially to promote the Bhim UPI transactions. Okay. For example, cashback schemes were provided, etc. Digital literacy campaign has also been carried out by the government through Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan and Digishala, which is basically a DD national channel. Okay, wherein the government basically makes the public aware regarding the different modes of digital payments that are there. For example, Bhim is there, UPI is there, e-vouchers are there, etc. Then we have also set up the grievance redressal mechanism in this regard. We have National Consumer Helpline, wherein the financial institutions take into account the grievances which are raised by the customers with regard to online transaction. Then the RBI has also taken a lot of measures in order to promote digital payments in India by enhancing the safety and security of digital payments. In this regard, RBI has started tokenization. What is this tokenization? Wherein you are not supposed to, fill in the details with regard to your card number, your CVV number, etc. Rather, in place of that, you will be given a token, okay? A code would be given, and by you making use of that code, you can carry out the digital transaction. Then RBI has also come up with guidelines with regard to payment aggregators and payment gateways that they have to get the license from RBI in order to, carry out the digital payments and digital transactions in India. Then the RBI has also come up with two-factor authentication, wherein when you carry out digital transaction, an OTP is sent, and when you insert that OTP, then only you are able to carry out the digital transaction. So RBI has also taken a lot of measures in order to strengthen in order to give boost to digital payments in India. Now, let's have a look over the challenges that we are witnessing when it comes to digital payments and what needs to be done in this regard. First and foremost, there is lack of awareness. This is something that we have understood through the gender divide and the rural-urban divide that is there, which is still prevalent in India. So we need to create awareness among the masses regarding the different modes of digital payments which are prevalent in India. In this regard, we also have a beautiful case study which is related to Karang Island of Manipur. Okay. This island in Manipur was having no idea with regard to digital payments. So the government, collaborated with SHGs and the youth clubs to basically mobilize the community when it comes to digital payments. And what we have witnessed right now is this island has become the first cashless island when it comes to India. So such initiatives could be replicated in other regions of India as well. Then the government needs to reduce the service charge which is being charged on the merchants as well as on the consumers. And rather, these charges should be borne by the government in order to promote digital payments. Then there are also lack of digital infrastructure, especially when it comes to the rural area. So the government needs to put in place the requisite digital infrastructure in the rural areas in order to promote the digital payments in the rural areas as well. Then the citizens are also concerned with regard to data security. Why? Because in 2021, breach of data was done with regard to a major financial intermediary like MobiKwik. And one prominent issue which is emerging right now is, so these payment gateways are basically resorting to such measures which are not approved by law. For example, recently this Slice gateway was in news. Why? Because a Bangalore youth has taken instant loan from this particular payment gateway, and in order to retrieve that loan, this payment gateway send morphed pictures of that particular boy to his mobile. So such data security concerns are coming up time and again. So in this regard, the government needs to come up with requisite cyber security protocols in order to gain the confidence of the citizens when it comes to digital payments. Then when it comes to Aadhaar enabled payment system, therein the quality biometric readers play a very crucial role. So when it comes to the rural areas, we need to ensure quality biometric readers in the rural region in order to enhance Aadhaar based payment systems. This is all that we need to know with regard to this article. Let's move to the next one. Now this next article relates to the issue of World Coin project, and this is related to this aspect of your prelim syllabus. Let's try and understand the context first. So the context is, recently the CEO of OpenAI has launched this World Coin project, which is basically a cryptocurrency project. So what is this World Coin project all about? Let's try and understand in a very simple manner. So what it does is, if you as an individual, okay, let's consider this individual A. So if you enroll in this World Coin project, So what you are supposed to do is, you are supposed to do the iris scan. So based on this iris scan, which would be done by the orb device. So based on this iris scan, you would be provided with a unique identity, ID. Okay, because this iris scan would prove that you are a unique human. Okay, and in return of this scan, you will be getting this ID, unique ID, and you would also be provided with cryptocurrency, which you can use whatever way you want to. Then, how does it works? So, a person needs to give consent that yes, I am ready to give my iris scan. And there are orb operators as well who are basically trained to get the iris scan of the people who are willing to give the iris scan. There is another way. Even if you don't want to get your iris scan, you can get cryptocurrency. How come? If you are an orb operator. So what you have to do is, you have to connect different people, or you have to basically provide the data with regard to other people on this world coin project that is there. So in that regard, in that behalf, you will be provided with cryptocurrency by this OpenAI company. Then the next aspect that we need to understand is why it is making use of iris scan only. Because this iris scan is basically a biometric data which is unique for a particular individual. And in this regard, this CEO of OpenAI has pointed out that the Aadhaar system was a quite success in India. It basically enabled the government to do away with duplication when it comes to social welfare projects in India. So that is why it is also resorting to this biometric data. Then, what are the criticisms which are being raised against this WorldCoin project? There are privacy concerns. There are concerns that this iris scan data which is being collected from you could be misused. Okay. Although in their behalf, this OpenAI has pointed out that we do not take a lot of information from the individual. We do not ask for their name, their mobile number, their home address, email address, etc. And they have also pointed out that we abide by the European Union General Data Protection Regulation that is there. But experts have pointed out that although they delete the photographs, okay, of the iris scan, but ultimately they preserve the code of this iris scan, which is basically a biometric data which could be misused in the future day. This is all that we need to know with regard to this article. Let's move to the next one. Now this next article relates to this aspect of your GS paper 2 syllabus. Let's try and understand the context. So the context is, recently the France finance minister, when he was a visit to Beijing, said that decoupling from China is merely an illusion. In this regard, what we need to understand is, what does these terms derisking and decoupling basically implies? First thing that you need to understand is, what is decoupling? Decoupling basically means moving inwards, moving towards protectionism, or using economic boycott. Okay, you boycott a particular nation. That is what is termed as decoupling. So, the finance minister of France has pointed out that this decoupling with Chinese economy cannot be carried out. Okay, we cannot use economic boycott against the Chinese economy. We cannot, move towards protectionism measures, etc. But what we are looking forward is derisking. Now, derisking is basically an economic concept which basically implies that if I am a corporate A, so in order to de-risk my business, what would I do is, I would terminate, or I would rather restrict my business, relations with a particular client, because investing or carrying out business with that particular client B is quite risky. So in order to de-risk your business, you basically terminate or restrict your business relation with a particular company or a particular individual. Now, this term de-risking is being used in the diplomacy. Why? Although this term has not been clearly defined that what it exactly implies. Okay, but in this regard, the USA has pointed out that de-risking basically implies that instead of moving for economic boycott of Chinese economy, instead of moving towards protectionism measures, what we are going to do is we are going to invest in our own economy. We are going to make our economy more vibrant. We are going to build resilient supply chains. We are not going to be dependent more on a particular economy. Because if you take the example of China, during the COVID-19 lockdown, what we witnessed is, with respect to India also, it restricted the supply of APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients to India, which are, key raw material when it comes to pharmaceutical industry. And China also control majority of the rare earth metals. So, in this background, majority of the countries are basically now focusing on their own economy. They are, collaborating with such countries which do not resort to such measures. Okay, and they are building resilient and effective supply chains in order to ensure that their nation is not subjected to coercion by any particular country. As I was giving the example, China used this economy because majority of the nations are dependent on Chinese economy. So it time and again uses this as a tool to do coercion of other countries. So in order to avoid this situation, what the other nations are doing, they are moving towards developing a vibrant economy of their own nation, and they are moving towards building resilient and effective supply chains so that they could reduce their dependence on a particular economy. And this is all that we need to know from today's newspaper. Thank you for listening to the discussion and all the very best for your preparation.